one's coming to save you. So what are you gonna do about it? Raw Minds on men's mental health. Hosted by Erick. For the ones we never meet.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Raw Minds. I'm Erick, and today's one's different. Today I'm sitting down with Brooke Edwards. She's got over 30 years of in the wilderness, not the kind you see on Instagram, but real environment: Alaska, Japan, Antarctica, high risk, high pressure, the kind of places where one wrong move changes everything. She's led expeditions, managed life or death situations and decisions. I work with teams in extreme environments where fear, ego, and stress can break people fast. But here's where it gets real. Brooke didn't just study survival out there. She hit her own wall. A nervous system injury forced her to stop, to slow down, to force everything, to face everything going inside her body and mind. And that changed everything for her. She went from guiding people through extreme wilderness into people through internal ones. Now she's a nervous system specialist, somatic practitioner, and a leadership coach working with high-risk teams and people who are slightly struggling. She helps people understand their stress, their trauma, their patterns, why they feel stuck, why they burn out, and why they can't shut down their minds off even when everything looks fine on the outside. She's worked with teams in dangerous environments, teaching decision-making under pressure, mind control, and how to actually create physiologically safety when things get intense. She's also a poet and someone who donated a kidney to save a friend's life. And that's not talk, that's who she is. So today we're talking about real resilience, not the fake push through it stuff. We're talking about what actually happens when your body is under pressure and what it takes to come back from it. If you ever felt overwhelmed, stuck, numb, or like you're just carrying more than you can handle, this episode's for you. And if you're serious about rebuilding your life, your discipline, your mindset, your structure, go check out thelegacymethod.com. That's where everything we talk about here turns into action. Make sure you like, comment, share, and follow, and help us get this message out, because someone out there needs this. And I just want to say welcome, Brooke, to Raw Minds, and I'm happy to have you here.
Well, Erick, thanks so much for the beautiful introduction. I'm so stoked to be here with you today on Raw Minds.
Yes, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I can't wait to have a good conversation with you.
So I just at the start, I like to get all my guests to plug any information or where people can find you and all that. So if you could do that right off the start, please.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm on Facebook under my business name is sort of a mouthful. It's Wild World Wanderings. So wandering through the wild world. But if you forget that, you can find me under Brooke Shiny Edwards at all the things. I'm on Facebook, Instagram under Wild World Wanderings. I have a website, Wild World Wanderings, on the www.wildworldwanderings.com. I'm on Substack. That's where I publish a lot of my poetry. I think it's Shiny Brookie. And on LinkedIn for folks reaching out for leadership coaching and resiliency coaching. So yeah, those are
awesome. And they'll all be on the description too. So just scroll down after obviously watching this podcast, and then check it out and see what Brooke's got. Maybe it'll help you. So who knows? But on that note, who are you, Brooke? Like, who is Brooke and your journey, please, if you could tell us.
Thanks so much, Erick. Yeah. Well, you did a gorgeous intro for me. I grew up in Washington State and with a family that was very outdoorsy. Primarily my mom was really the big outdoors one. And she kind of taught me that girls can do whatever boys can do. And so I was a real big tomboy growing up and got my first guide job right out of college as a cowgirl out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, working with two old cowboys doing horsepacking trips in the Teton Wilderness. And
Nice.
It was amazing. I was the camp cook, so my nickname was Cookie. And through that, I learned so many skills. I'd already was a really confident outdoors woman at that point, but what I didn't realize is that you could make a living showing people these wild places. And these cowboys, they loved being out there with the art of the wrangling horses, but they didn't love engaging with the guests, and I did. So I would ride along and engage with the guests. And so I really, that was born my love of guiding from there. And immediately following that summer, I climbed Mount Rainier and then set sail for Africa in Peace Corps and spent 2 years in West Africa and learned a lot about life and death and resilience in a very small village in Niger, West Africa.
How
And
old were you at
where
the time with it when you
I
were
was
doing this?
22 years old.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And
Just a baby.
just a wee baby who thought I
Yeah.
could save the world by going to Africa.
Mhm.
And what I found out is they really delivered me the best graduate school education I ever could have gotten. Just, we in 1 week we buried 11 children. Like, we had spinal meningitis
Wow.
sweep through my village. And I saw that death was the other side of life. They really showed me that they could grieve alongside loving really hard. They had beautiful ritual around death and really intertwined the two, where when I came back to America, I realized how closed off we are to grief and to death, and we put it behind locked doors and we don't talk about it. And in fact, our rituals are really lacking in my mind of truly getting to the depths of it. So that was like a seed planted for me on the grief track very early on
Can
in
I
my
just
age.
stop you there for a second?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it is true, because if you do see a lot of these deaths over in Africa and stuff like this, it's a celebration. It's a great celebration. Like, even some of the villages come together, and there's dancing and there's foods. Like, I've seen these videos and stuff. And a lot of other cultures, there's a lot of celebration. But when you come over here, like the Western culture, it's like mourning, sad. You're wearing black. It's like you just feel just sad. And
Well,
I've always told everybody that's close to me, I don't want a funeral like that when I pass away. I want to party with a DJ, and I just want to have fun and have people, celebrate my life, not be there and cry. So remember this, everybody, when I'm old and this all happens, this is what I want. I want a DJ and a party and everybody just to have fun, and that's what it should be about. You should be celebrating, the passing over and the time that you spent on this world with the people,
and I'll be the first to DJ your celebration of
Hell
life,
yeah.
Eric. But
Let's
I
do it.
think that the piece though that is missing in that I would just add to is what I think that these cultures in a lot of indigenous cultures around the world do really well is they both celebrate, but they also wail and they grieve hard and they leave a space for it. And there's no shame in men crying, women crying, wailing, screaming it out. And so it is a holding of the whole where we, like you said, we do this really strange, wear black. And then we celebrate the widow who is strong because she didn't cry at her husband's funeral, or the man who doesn't cry when his daughter dies. And it's well, what are we it's a both and. I want to bring to the world the holding of the whole. And really that's where my journey began, is learning from people really living the real deal life and death. And I brought that back to the States with me, and I launched on my career of guiding in Alaska. And it began a 30-year career that started at that 22-year-old piece on horseback. And it came into the Alaskan world of hiking, rafting, sea kayaking, backpacking. It became my tool to see Alaska. I was like, oh, I can use this for my own exploration. And the cool part about guiding in Alaska, it was the real deal guiding. It was not oh, you go to a company and you learn the trails or you learn the river. It's some of the companies I worked for, they'd hand you a topo map and they'd be like, okay, you're going to get on these 2 bush plains and you're going to get out in the Arctic, and this will be your route. And there's a couple bush strips here and there, but you should try to cross over the Alaska Range or the Brooks Range and then get to the other side. And good luck, and nobody would have done this route before. And so I'd get there and the clients would be like, so what's tomorrow look like? I was like, I don't know. I've never been here either. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine,
Yeah.
And they'd kind of go wide-eyed, what the hell? Who have we hired? And I was like, no, this is what real guiding is. It's that's what I loved about it. It's the old way of exploration, like Shackleton stuff, of you're going out with the spirit of adventure of literally figuring out,
paving your own path.
You are paving your own path. There's no trails. You are looking at a mountain being I wonder how we're going to get up there, how
Yeah.
we're going to get around it, or how we're going to cross the river to get to it, And so you're like, I would engage my clients and like, look, I don't have all the answers. We are going to be a team and we're going to figure this out together.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying, sorry, we got cut off there, that, you're paving your own path and going, you can go around the mountain. How are you going to go around the mountain? How are you going to go over
hmm
it? Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
And so basically, long story short, is like I made a career out of holding life and death decisions for people in places like Alaska. So Alaska has a million different ways to kill people, from earthquakes to volcanoes to grizzly bears to river crossings. I mean, it keeps you on your toes, right? So as a guide, I was literally sleeping with one eye, both ears open, just kind of like ready to pounce, react, like situationally aware constantly, just surveying the scene, taking in the environment so that my peoples could be on vacation because that's what this is their dream vacation. Go to Alaska,
Yeah.
go to the
They
Arctic,
can be
right?
like this while you can be focused. Right?
Yeah.
That's your job.
Focus, focus. So a number of things, over the years, over 30 years, you can only imagine like how many stories I have of shit going sideways and like run-ins with grizzly bears and, volcanoes turning planes around and like earthquakes cracking open roads, all the things. Like I pretty much ran into all of it. And what I didn't realize is that, and I was with companies where clients died. Luckily, knock on wood, I was never the guide who had a client die on them in
Yeah.
my trip. But what I came to find out was that that didn't matter, Eric, because in my nervous system, like sometimes it was my boyfriend who had a client die on him, and then I dealt with his nightmares, or it was in the company that I worked for, and I was the one who greeted all the people who came back from that trip, or took the
Mhm.
calls, or was on the same river the next week that the people died on. And what that does to a nervous system is it lands in what we call chronic stress load. So I like to teach people about this now because I had no idea. Nobody told me going into guiding that I could be nervous system injured. So just to explain this to the audience, everybody's heard of PTSD, right? Like
Mhm.
post traumatic stress disorder. That became really popular after Vietnam. We understood it from our military veterans
Mhm.
coming home from war that they had this syndrome where they were very impacted and they would experience nightmares and anxiety and depression, suicidal ideation, all those things. Later on, they studied it more and more. Next, they studied it in survivors of childhood abuse. And then Laura McGladrey took it to the outdoor world and also to firefighters, policemen, all these first responders, like everybody kind of on the front lines, like basically military equivalent, like
Mhm.
back on our homeland. And that then bled out to like ski patrollers, guides. And what they studied was like, holy cow, you don't just like one day wake up and have PTSD. There's a spectrum, right?
Mhm.
And the spectrum is nervous system injury. And the military started with this like coding it with colors. Like green is action ready, yellow is like moderately ready for action, orange is like critically injured or beginnings of injury, and then red is critically injured. So red is PTSD, right? And underneath each is like a list of symptoms. And in a normal, healthy nervous system like you or I, we can pendulate, and a healthy nervous system goes from like you walk into your kitchen, you see a mouse, you're like, and you jump, it
Mhm.
startles you, there's like movement. And then you're like, oh, it's just a mouse. And you come back into regulation. And so you driving down the street, like somebody swerves in front of you, you're like, you like activate get the cortisol hit, the adrenaline hit, you go into
Mhm.
fight or flight. You're like, I'm ready to respond. But then the car passes, you avoid the accident, and you come back into regulation. Your breath returns to normal, your heartbeat returns to normal. And that's what a healthy nervous system looks like. So what happens with a chronic nervous system load is that every single one of us, think about when you're a little kid and the first time like something bad happens in your life. It could be that like you took the first grade hamster home and it died and you felt like this huge wave of like grief and guilt because you'd never had anything die before and you didn't know what death was. That's like a little like I like to talk in snowstorms because I'm an avalanche educator as well. So that's like a 3-inch snowstorm on the ground. Like 3 inches of snow, no big deal. That doesn't cause an avalanche. But
Mhm.
then say your grandma dies when you're 16, and now you have like a little bit bigger of that's like a more real death in your life. And it's not all death, it can be trauma, it can be experiences of fear, of anything that like where something goes not according to plan. So
Yeah.
these are
Shock the
snowstorms,
system.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then something big happens and you can avalanche your whole system, like a 3-foot snowstorm. You've had a lot of them in your life. It
Yeah.
avalanches your system. And unless you know how to care for your system throughout, then you might not know you're this far away from avalanching, because sometimes it's not a 3-foot storm. Sometimes it is the hair that broke the camel's back, right? It can be like,
Mhm.
have you ever had that moment where you're like, there's a great cartoon that depicts this. It's like a guy with an invisible backpack and it's super duper laden and huge, and he's like barely can walk, and he gets to a crack in the sidewalk and he crumbles to his knees and he's bawling with his head in his hands, and his dude friend on the other side of the crack is like, dude, what is your deal? Like, it's just a crack. But what he can't see is the invisible backpack that the other person was wearing.
Mhm.
So one of the things I want your listeners to understand is like, everybody out there is walking around with an invisible backpack. Like, we all are a layered snowpack. And when we enter an environment, it doesn't have to be the Alaska wilderness. Like, it could be the corporate workplace. It could be Wall Street, for God's sakes. Like, anything right now in our world can deliver you stress levels. And so it doesn't have to be like one of your colleagues died in an avalanche. It could literally be like the stock market's collapsing and your
Mhm.
job is on the line, you know? So
Mhm.
those land the same in our animal bodies. Our lizard brain is built. This was our original system for survival that I call the lizard brain because it lives in our amygdala and it's not accessible via our conscious thought. I can't talk myself out of not jumping when I see the mouse in the kitchen, right?
Mhm.
So that has kept us alive
Is that your
since we became
like
human.
subconscious kind of like that? Is that your
It's not even your
subconscious? Not even
subconscious.
that?
It's literally our lizard brain. It is reptilian, and it is a center that like you're because your subconscious would involve it still like filtering
Could it
thoughts. You'd
talk?
be like,
Yeah.
oh, it'd be like, oh, there's a mouse. Your amygdala that fires, your vagus nerve fires and shoots adrenaline and cortisol when so there's this thing in our brain called a neuroceptor, and what its job is to scan the environment for danger at all times. When it sees anything that it is registered that it relates to environment, so go back to the Wall Street trader, it doesn't matter that it's not a grizzly bear. He sees stocks plummeting and he's in charge of it. It's gonna show up in his lizard brain as danger, danger, danger. You're going to lose your life. You're going to lose your living. So that may as well be a grizzly bear to the lizard brain in
Mhm.
us. So we get the heart rate, we get breath increasing, we get heart rate, we get this stress overload on our system.
See, I can just to touch on that. So I watched a video, I think 2 nights ago actually, and it was a jewelry place and it got robbed. And there was two
Mm-hmm.
people in it. There was a lady behind the counter that she owns the place, and there was this guy that was just shopping in there. And I think 3 or 4 guys came in masked, and they I don't know if they had guns or not, I don't remember, and they started smashing. But soon as they came in, they're like, get down, get down. This one guy, he just froze and he was like this, right? And that's the
Mm-hmm.
right. And he was like this. And he like they
Freeze.
were yeah, and he was freezing, and they were like, he didn't know what to do, and they literally had to grab this guy and push him over here and push him to get down because he was just frozen. Like he was
Yeah.
just frozen. Yeah,
And so we don't get to choose that. He didn't be like, I know, I'll play dead. I'll freeze here and I'll be
yeah,
a mannequin and they won't see me. But
yeah.
think about
Or
like
close
how
my eyes and they
animals
can't see that I'm here, right? Yeah,
right?
right.
So there's
Yeah.
actually 4 reactions and that our body like decides, and it's freeze. That's like that shutdown. I'm gonna be the animal that plays dead and hopes that the bear goes away,
Was that
and
possum or
then
something does that, right?
the possum, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that is a complete shutdown. So it's like there's a like if our zone of tolerance is in the middle, hyper arousal is up here. That's fight or flight. I'm gonna fight the bear or I'm gonna run from the bear. You should never run from a bear.
Mhm.
But maybe you could run from the burglars. I don't know. It depends if they had a gun or
Yeah.
a knife,
Depending on what your bear is. Yeah. Depending on what the bear is. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's in the like jacked up part, right? So either our body shoots everything like, okay, we're gonna like we're going to fire up. That's where the superhuman strength happens, where people flip the car off their son
Yeah.
that's trapped or whatever. That's hyper arousal. Then the window of tolerance is what we talked about when after you see the mouse, you come back into like everything's normal. So hypo arousal is freeze. Everything like fully shuts down. People can faint, they can pass out. It goes like our system goes into full shutdown. And
Okay.
then the other one that we don't talk about as much is fawn. So fawning is essentially people pleasing. So it's like, think about like,
A yes man, I guess you could say, or a yes woman.
yeah. So like if I
Yeah.
got kidnapped by those burglars, or if I'm at, so let's use the burglary thing. If I'm the woman behind the counter and those guys are like, get down, blah, blah, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be like, yes, sir. I'm going to get the money out. I'm going to follow instructions. I'm going to be really calm. I'm going to basically people please to make the danger go
I've
away. I'm
seen
going to
that. I've
give
seen
them
the
what they
videos of them
want,
doing that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that is another like survival tactic that sadly women have used a lot over time to the point where we're all trying to like, I'm a recovering people pleaser, So, but men do it too, like it is a lizard thing. It's all in all of our DNA
Mhm.
out of survival. So what can happen when we're in stress for long periods of time, and again, it doesn't matter if it's Alaska wilderness or the corporate world, is we can get our needles stuck in one of those zones, either in the hyperarousal in fight or flight, where like I can't sleep at night, I have anxiety, I'm replaying that. Like if I were to watch that burglary scene, like I would lay in bed and like watch it over and over again in my mind and just be like living the burglary over and over again. Like
Mhm.
my body would be acting as if I was still in that burglary. Like it's basically it doesn't know safety. So when we
Mhm.
get stuck there, the body has to, this is where like what I saw in Alaska, and this is where the shift in my career is like who Brooke Edwards is really started to happen, is like I was getting more and more and more injured, where I became more and more skittish and conservative as a guide. Like as a ski guide, I was like
Like physically
scared to,
injured or mentally?
no, like it is, I call it a physical injury because it's in our nervous system,
Yeah.
which runs our whole body. But a
Fair
lot of
enough.
people mistake it for mental health, but it's kind of both and, right? So I was injured, but not knowing that I was injured. So I was
Mhm.
just noticing that I was kind of like getting to be more and more scared I was getting hyper vigilant. Like I was looking like there's going to be an avalanche. I was keeping my clients out of the fun ski terrain because my friends were dying in avalanches. And then meanwhile, all my colleagues, I work mainly in a man's world, and a lot of the MO, particularly in Alaska, but this is everywhere in America right now and Canada, across the world. What do? We do coping mechanisms, alcohol,
Mm.
drugs, name your numbing tool. It could be an addiction, any of the addictions, sex,
Anything. Yeah.
anything. And scrolling, doom scrolling, like we numb out, right? Because we're stuck in fight or flight. We have to do something to come out of that. And so we're looking for an escape.
Well,
And
it's dopamine, right? Like those, like
it's
the scrolling and stuff is, but it's like small and it's shitty dopamine too, really, at the end of the
yeah.
day. Except for this
Yeah, but it's
podcast. This is great dopamine. Watch all of
perfect.
it, okay?
Keep
This,
using
yeah,
this as a
yeah,
coping mechanism.
yeah. This is great dopamine. It actually increases your dopamine so much. So
Yeah.
watch this podcast.
Totally. So I started to recognize these patterns, and I was actually losing some colleagues to suicide because they
Mm.
had dug enough dead people out of avalanches, or, been with clients who had died and they blamed themselves and they killed themselves. And so I was seeing that PTSD on the other end of the scale, right? Where people were so stuck in fight or flight, but nobody had bothered yet to recognize that guides could get PTSD. Just like we don't even recognize that probably CEOs could probably get PTSD. Anybody can in this
Mhm.
day and age that we're living in,
Mhm.
where we are basically every time you open your phone in the news cycle, we're being like, bam, bam, bam,
Mhm.
bam. Like it is like we go to war every time we open our phones,
Well, I got
besides this
PTSD
podcast.
from eating meat, right? When I was 5 years old. I just talked about that. I've talked about this many times on here. But at 5 years old, I was forced to eat cubes of meat from this lady at a camp. And she'd literally stab it with a fork, throw it in my mouth, and then stab it again and hold it in front of my mouth until I'd swallow and then do it. And then I would run, puke, run back, do it
Oh my
over
God,
again,
that's
do it.
horrible.
Yeah, and I didn't eat meat from 5 years old till I was 32 years old. I'm 42 now. And every time I wanted to eat meat, I would puke because it brought me back to that
Yeah.
situation when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
PTSD is real, and it comes in different ways. And like I didn't even realize this, right? Until I was a
Mhm.
lot older. And like when I was younger too, I didn't want to tell my mom because I thought I was getting in trouble, you know? So and
Mhm.
it didn't all kick in until I was about 16 years old. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that what you're the reason why then so this is cool example because that neuroceptor then, like, that looks for safety every time it saw meat, it triggered the vomit reflex. So the
Yeah.
rest and digest only happens when we're in the window of tolerance. So
Hmm.
puking, when people, like, see a car accident, sometimes their response is
Yeah.
to puke,
Yeah.
because
Or
you
blood
go into
fainting.
that shutdown and some people shit their pants,
Yeah.
like piss their pants, like we purge our system,
Hmm.
So that is part of that hypoarousal when your body is like full shutdown. So you were having a trauma response every time late into
Yep.
life. And so,
And it
we
was, can I just touch on that real quick? And it was like
yeah, yeah,
even
please do.
and like my friend, he was my best friend. He passed away, but rest in peace, Chad. But he
I'm
was a
sorry,
cook. He was on Canadian Chef or Canada Chef or something like that. He never made it to the show, but he made it like up until the last one. And he was amazing cook, just amazing. So he would cook things and put meat in it and try to trick me without me even knowing. And then he would smile. And soon as I knew he would smile, because we lived together, we were roommates. Soon as he would smile, I knew right away, and I would puke. Like, so it's like everything. Oh yeah. And like even like if I ate it and like I was like it was delicious, I wanted to eat it, smelled so good, everything smelled so good, but I couldn't because it would trigger that. And even after I'd eat it, and not like when you would trick me, I would puke again because after I'd find out, right? Even though ate it and everything, it would puke. And that's exactly what it was. It was a trauma response.
Yeah, and so there are healing modalities for that, like, it's called corrective experience, so it'd be like a slow progression to introducing you and your system back to meat, to, like,
That's what I
basically
did.
that's where that, like, somatic practitioning is, like, showing your body safety, getting your whole nervous system in safety, introducing the meat, like, so that's what we call a corrective experience, so that, like, I've lost a lot of friends in avalanches. How I go back to the mountains is I build myself a progression back to joy all the time. It's like
Mhm.
I tiptoe, I baby step, I touch in, and if I start crying, then I back off, And so it's like because I have to rebuild my capacity. I have to re-show myself what safety is. So this is just like it changed my whole world once I understood what was happening in my body via a nervous system lens because instead of beating myself up, and this is what I hope your listeners get from this, is like if I could gift everyone in the world like one tool for self-grace, it would be like there's so much that we can't control that is just like built into our survival and if we can understand that, then perhaps we could give ourselves enough grace and space to like know that there are healing modalities available to titrate your way back into like a regulated world. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So it really
Definitely.
came to a head for me, like just to like kind of finish my loop of the story of like I was heli ski guiding in Valdez, Alaska, and I had worked 20 years to become a heli ski guide. It was like the pinnacle of my career.
That's
I wanted
amazing.
more
That
than
would be so
anything
cool.
to
Yeah.
do this. I had like gone from
Yeah.
office girl and scrubbing the toilets and fueling the helicopters and painting the shed to like finally sitting in that front seat. And I was horrible at it, Eric, because you know why? It came after I'd already lost a lot of people in the ski guiding world.
Mm.
And then so I came into it and it is like you are fight and flight. Like it's like feels like $100 bills are flying out the window and they're like, "What
Mhm.
are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And you're like, "Wop, wop, 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 wop." You're like, "I don't know, we'll land over
Yeah.
there." Like
Yeah, because it's
and
expensive to run those things. Like, it's really expensive for people that don't know. Like, it
and so in 10 seconds you're deciding like who's my group, what's their ski ability. I have 800,000 acres of terrain to choose from. What's the aspect? What's the avalanche problem? What's the snow quality? Where are we going to land the
weather.
helicopter? Where are we going to pick up the people? What's the weather doing? And all that is like 10 seconds. And my brain was
Mm.
like, talk about. So up to this point, I didn't know that I was being like chronically injured and acutely injured over and over again. And so I didn't know that I had been stuck in fight or flight for probably 20 years at that point. I'd stopped sleeping. I had big anxiety. And so here now I'm doing this like most dangerous job in the world. It's supposed to be like my dream job. It's supposed to be so cool. And what happened was a helicopter crashed at a different company and it killed 5 people, and 3 of them were my dear friends and mentors. And I found out at 8 o'clock in the morning, and in 5 minutes later, I got in the helicopter to do the exact same job and guide people. And then from there on, my season was like, I was a mess. I was such a mess because then I was like beyond the needle, right? So then I woke up every morning and put my Wonder Woman bracelets on and was like, douche, douche,
Mhm.
I'm going to go out the door. And I'd like suck it up and deal as you do. And I would survive and survive and survive. And I'd come home and I'd collapse in the
Well, in this
pool
moment,
of
though,
tears.
are you worried of like not coming home? Is that what's going through your head too, like because of all these,
Again, it
or is it
wasn't
just
it wasn't a conscious thing. It was like literally living in my animal body of like that
intense, just
danger.
very tense all the time? And yeah,
Yeah.
I know
Like,
that
and
feeling.
not even
Yeah,
for me, it was like that I am holding like these husbands of people, these fathers of people, these mothers and sisters of people, like I'm holding their lives. It's up to me to bring them home at the end of every day. It's on me. So it wasn't even
mm,
about whether I come home or not. It was like,
yeah,
holy shit, I'm in charge
yeah.
of these other people, every decision I make. And eventually universe like swept me. I like blew out my knee in the last week of the season, and I pulled myself up in the helicopter and I was just crying on the way home, and I was crying not because of my knee, but I was like, it was crying out of relief. I was like, thank God I don't have to do this job anymore.
Happy.
And I told a friend of mine, and she's this leading wilderness medical expert, and she said, you know what, Brooke, you're killing yourself. You are not slowly, but you are quickly killing yourself. And she handed me a book that was called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
What?
And I'll tell you. So this is how I explain the nervous system. So zebras, they're in Africa, they're grazing on the savannah, like good grass, right? And then lion comes on the savannah and they're like, fuck, there's a lion. Oh my God. And they're like, sprint across the savannah, and they all race across the savannah. So they engage flight and they run across the savannah, and the lion gets the baby zebra and it goes and lays down in the grass and it takes a nap on top of it. And all the zebras are like, oh cool, okay, he's cool, he's napping, and they just go back to grazing. They're just like, oh, grass, grass, grass. They're not like, where the fuck is the lion? Where's the lion? Where's the lion? Is the lion over there? They're just like, boop, 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 boop. I tell this story because this book did such a great job of it, to be like, they don't get ulcers, but humans, we do. We get ulcers, cancer, all these things because that stress has
Stress.
to, if we're stuck over here and we're like, lion, 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 then
Mm-hmm.
like what our body does is like, okay, I'm gonna like drink myself to death to like make it stop, or like it's gonna form like some other kind of tumor in my body.
Yeah.
And so what she gifted me with that knowledge was like, holy shit, I have a nervous system injury. I have PTSD. I've been like chronic nervous system injury to acute. And that began my healing journey. I did multiple modalities of therapy. I hired a coach. I hired another coach. And it became clear to me, like, I still wasn't ready to give up guiding. Fast forward, a number of like even crazier shit happened to me where I was like, had a near miss murder by a schizophrenic caretaker in the middle of the
Oh
Denali
my God.
Wilderness, which I was like, I'd thought of every way that Alaska could kill me, and slow death by ice pick by a schizophrenic was not on the list.
Oh my
So
God.
that was the real icing on the cake, but we'll
Well, you
save
can
that
check that
story
one
till
off the box, I
we'll
guess.
sell that we'll sell the movie rights to that
Yeah.
later. But that was, like, really the sealed the deal. I was like, "Okay, I get it. Like, I am done guiding. I'm gonna take all this knowledge and my own healing journey, and I'm gonna sell everything in Alaska. I'm gonna move back to Washington and go be near my 85-year-old mom and my sister," and I built a place on my sister's land. And I switched like that. I was like, "I'm gonna take my guiding business, which was Wild World Wanderings, and I'm gonna just turn it into a resiliency coaching business." Because essentially I'd been coaching people through every
Just in
kind
the
of
wilderness.
sport for 30
Yeah.
years in the wilderness, and
Yeah.
most of it's all mindset, right? It's and like working with fear, working with anxiety, working with depression for people to meet themselves,
Well, and
and
not
working with
just that
grief and
though,
trauma and loss.
but I mean, you've lived it too, and you can't teach that shit. You can't teach that shit. You can't. There's no way. Like, you can
Yeah.
go to school as many you want. You can go to school till you're 100, but you
Right.
can't teach grit. You know what I mean? And you lived
Right.
it. You lived
I
it.
lived it. And so I kind of joked that my tagline was like, well, I had to guide people through the external wilderness for 30 years so that I could learn how to guide people through their deepest, most remote internal wilderness. And that's like the grief and the trauma and the loss and the nervous system injury. And that is my like, I'm like walking my path now. I'm like, oh my gosh, like the path of the wounded healer, like this is why I'm supposed to be on this
Mhm.
planet. Like I am here to
Fills your bucket.
support people and teach people and like and even go back. I just got to go back to the ski industry and work at a corporate level to like work with a group that had lost colleagues. And so I'm like, I'm getting to even like come full circle back into this industry that I love so dearly and like tend to the souls so that I don't have to watch my brothers and sisters die of alcoholism or suicide, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing. So how was that process though of like the transformation, like, and starting it? Like, was it scary for you, or were you just like, this is it? I know what I'm doing. Let's go.
It was the biggest fucking leap of faith, Eric. I mean, I'm lucky that I have my sister was like, "Don't buy a house, don't buy land." She's like, "I have 20 acres, just build on my property as an ADU and we'll share the well and we'll share, you know, the things." And so like I have this family that kind of like felt like a landing spot for me, right?
Yeah, a
And
homestead.
then so that was like a safety net. And then when I decided to move to Washington, I fell in love with somebody else in Washington and he had his own house and a good job. So then there was like, okay, this other landing net appeared before me of a partner who was like willing to buy the groceries, you know? So essentially I had instant like two roofs over my head. And then I had, you talked in the intro about me donating a kidney.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me losing all these friends and colleagues and people in the wilderness to death and me never being able to save them. Then when I had a friend like that I had the ability to save by donating a kidney, it was like no question. So that kind of happened right at the same time. I was like, I know, I'll stop guiding. I'll go through all the medical. I'll donate my kidney. I'll move back to Washington. And I just like went for it. Like full, like gave all my stuff away, jumped on a plane. Like, but how cool is that? Like I fell in love with somebody. My like life partner showed up. Like my dream house got built. The business I started, I was just like, I'm gonna call myself a resiliency coach. And I
Just
went to this academy for coaching and I was like, learn the business of coaching, learn the skill of coaching, did all these I kind of have like self-built my own graduate program in by workshops and trainings and practicing and now I'm in like two different therapy cohorts where these groups of therapists that work with survivors of outdoor adventure and recovery,
okay, cool.
SOAR, and then Responder Alliance, which is the group I referred to that built the spectrum for the outdoor world of like the stress continuum. I'm in both of their cohorts of therapists, so they actually help me. I know when people are truly in PTSD, I make sure that I'm not their only resource, that they also have a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very careful to not overstep my ethical boundaries of
Yeah,
what I can legally provide to them and for their higher care. You know, like a lot of my clients have me as a coach and they have a therapist, you know, who can do some of those different modalities like ketamine clinics or EMDR or things that I'm not certified in.
yeah.
But it was a huge leap of faith, and it was so cool, Eric, because a lot of my old wilderness clients came out of the woodwork and just said, "I'll sign up," you know, and they weren't outdoor
Wow.
guides. They just wanted support in their lives, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay," you know, and our mutual friend Joey, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he had already started coaching and he helped me just to like he would walk me through like programs that he was building and so it's like it was just abundance as you said. It was clear that I was on the right path in life. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you take the leap of faith and you know in your heart of hearts that you were meant for this, then the trail, just like guiding in Alaska when there are no trails, it's like the
Mm-hmm.
trail appears before you, and every time you get to that river that looks impossible to cross, you like walk up and down it until you find a braided spot to cross. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same with like this transition for me in life. And it's not like the hits have stopped coming, like just because I've left Alaska, like I told you right before this
Yeah.
podcast, that another friend was just lost heli guiding this week in an avalanche. And
My
yet now I have
condolences.
a deep capacity for grief. It's like now I'm like, I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm like, grief
Yeah.
is the other side of love. Like, I'm like, break my heart wide open. Like, I have a friend, look at this thing, just because we're on video. This is a driftwood heart that when I was rafting the Grand Canyon for 3 weeks, I found this driftwood heart on the first night, and it was all raw. And I carried it on the raft all the way, and I brought it out of the wilderness, and I gave it to my best friend, Rosa, and she loves as a hobby working with wood. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Can you just help me sand this?" And she sanded it down, and then
Coated
she
it
filled
too.
all the cracks with epoxy. And when
That's
she gave it back
amazing.
to me, I was like, "Holy shit, that's like my heart." Like all the grief, like every crack in my heart, it
Oh,
just made my
wow.
heart
I'm just putting that
so
together now. Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
like, literally, it's even red, like blood. And it's
Yeah.
like, to me, this is like when my heart before grief, it started out like this big, but now look at it, it barely fits in my
Yeah.
chest. I have to wear it outside of
Yeah.
my body. So it's like I go through life like a pollinator of joy and like a spreader of love because I know grief, because I'm not scared to let my heart break
Mhm.
over and over and over again. And so I welcome it now in just that it helps me live with no regrets. It helps me
Mhm.
take advantage of opportunities like being on your show to say like, "Yeah, I'm gonna live in the moment. I wanna be a part of Raw
Yeah.
Lines. How cool would that be?" You know?
Appreciate that. I love
It's
that.
like,
Thank you.
because if I get hit by a truck tomorrow, I'll be like, "Yeah, Lisa was on Erick's show, and now he knows how to DJ my
Well,
party."
hopefully not. Hopefully not. But like
'Cause y'all are
I
supposed to have a dance party
agree.
for me too, you know?
Yeah, we'll all have a dance for both. Not at the same. We won't be going. No, like this is
No,
years,
no, no, it's
years.
not
Like,
getting
come on,
hit by the same
yeah,
truck.
yeah. But I mean, like, I can totally relate with that because my whole life has been grief, right? Like through since I
Yeah,
was five
you have
years
lived
old.
it so
Yeah.
much. Your heart, I wouldn't even be able to pick up.
Well, I actually had after Jules, she was my fiance. After she passed away, I
Mhm.
got a grief counselor. The lady's like, I don't even know what to say to you. She's like, you know
Mm.
more. Well, she's like, you know more about this stuff than I do, to be honest with you. Like, she
Yeah,
really did. She's like,
you
I
do?
honestly do not know what. Yeah, she's like, you've actually taught me a couple things because I had a couple of sessions with her, right? And she's just like, you've actually taught me a couple things. I really I don't know what to say,
Mm.
and I had to literally end my coaching because she just could not help me because I already like I was I was aware of everything. I was it was just I don't know, it was crazy. But I mean,
Well, that's what I love
I
about
was
your story, Eric,
yeah
too, is that you used grief as a fuel to transform your life and build this podcast and help others.
yes
And by telling your story, you open up, especially for men. Like, what you're doing for men's mental health to me is like the biggest gift to like reshifting our world and giving men
mhm,
permission to feel deeply and emote deeply and grieve and wail and cry and all of it so that their hearts can break wide open and love more deeply, you
mm.
know?
Well, and I appreciate that, and it's true because like we were taught to just suck it up, hold it in, be a man, grow up, and
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
and then a lot of us don't even realize that we're doing that. We really don't
Right.
because it's generational trauma that's been going through, and
Completely.
and that's what and well, here's the thing. I was talking to my dad years ago when we did talk, and I asked him like, "Why did you leave? Like, why did you cheat? Why did you leave? Like, what was going through your mind?" And he honestly said, like, "I had no idea what I was doing, and I was scared." I mean, it's no excuse,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, he told me, and then I came to realize it was like, even though I told him to go, I'll straight up told him to go fuck himself because he disrespected me and my daughter and stuff, right? But I
Uh-huh.
still
Uh-huh.
understand is like that's all he knew how to like be a father and do that
Uh-huh.
because that's what he was taught, and like that's
Uh-huh.
and like his dad ran away, and so and it's a I guess it's a thing in our family that on the men's side that's what happened a lot, right? And it's really
Well,
sad.
and this is what I'm glad you brought this up because it's like I think there's lots of talk of right now down with the patriarchy and all that, and a lot of men feel threatened by that because they feel like it's hating men. But what I see like is that it's just a system that men are victims of too, and part of that patriarchal box that your dad had to fit in was like my dad was in it too, is like you had to get a wife, get a career, be the sole provider for a family. There's a ton of pressure. And when we look at all the myriad of ways that we're living now, like none of us want to just get one career for our whole lives and
Hmm.
all these things. And they were like, you're only a man if you don't cry, you don't ask questions, you suck it up and deal, you get in the box, you get a career. And so, of course, they were having affairs. Of course, they were like, they were scared shitless. They were like,
Hmm.
they didn't fit the mold either. So it's like patriarchy did a disservice just because, like, people like to throw it under the bus as like, well, then men got all the kudos and they're in charge. And like, that's just one iota of the problem. The problem is like, I think we just need to reshape the system. And like, I am a big proponent of like cycling back to like that we all are made of masculine and feminine, all of us.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I like to believe in like that there's a divine masculine and a divine feminine where we get to be our whole selves, right? Like you get to cry, I get to fix engines, whatever,
Yeah, I was gonna
like
say change a tire or do something. Yeah, I
whatever.
don't know.
I already do
Yeah,
all that shit because I
yeah,
worked in a
yeah.
man's world my whole life.
Exactly. Right. I don't
But
even know what to say, but yeah, yeah.
but it's like, no, but be aggressive. I get to be basically bitchy, like I get to be like confident and forceful. It's like a divine masculine for me might look like really owning my power and like walking in a room like I own the place, and
Hmm.
that was never safe for me to do as a woman in that world. And it's like
Hmm.
now I can do it because it's like
Hmm.
I'm surrounded by like I have a beautiful circle of humans in my
Yeah.
life that are
Well, I
all
mean, look,
working on the same thing,
what
you
is it?
know?
The first woman trainer jockey just won the Kentucky. That
I
was
know, I
amazing.
saw that
What
footage,
a
I loved it, it made
amazing
me cry,
story too. From like
So cool.
I'll be honest, I was like just doom scrolling on TikTok, and
Me
I came
too.
across the video and I saw Chavez is his name, I think it is. The he was on So Happy, right? The horse, and he was in the very back,
Yeah.
and he went all around, and and there's a huger story behind that too, right? With the
Yes.
grandpa, and I was literally
Yes.
in tears, and I don't even like, I was so happy, I was in tears. I'm like, whoa, I
I
can't
was in
watch this.
tears too.
Like my girl's gonna come down and like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Are you okay? And then like I flipped again, and then there's showing the trainer, the lady, I forget
I
her
know,
name,
and
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 she's
she's like, "Go
watching.
Jose, go
Yeah,
Jose, go
and then I got in
Jose,"
tears
who's the
again because
jockey.
I know it was going. I was like, it's an amazing moment, a beautiful story, and I just want to say shout out to them, man. They like,
Mhm.
and it was him and his brother too. The younger brother
Yes.
won, right? Yeah, so it was
Yes,
crazy.
yeah.
So just
I
wild.
know.
And 11 times they tried, or so I think it was like that. And it just goes to show you never give up on your dream. Never give up on
Never
your
give
dream.
up on your
No.
dreams.
Yeah.
And that like let's all bust out of the labels and the boxes that I want I want us all to evolve as humanity and get back
Definitely.
away from this divided culture and get back towards like a shared humanity of like
Yeah.
of basically like seeing that like we all have grief, we all have love, we all have these like raw emotions. We're all made of these lizard systems that
Hmm.
react when a snake crosses the path and vomit when somebody puts steak in front of our plate. But, like,
100%.
that's the shared humanity, like, let's get away from the, like, "Who did you vote for?" before I, like, label you and decide everything about you as a
Stupid.
human.
We're brothers and
I wanna
sisters.
be
What
back to,
about the
like
human race, right? The human race. Forget about everything else. What about the human race? Brothers and sisters looking after each other. That's what it's about. It's
there's
we
a
got to put the egos and all that other bullshit aside, at
I
the end
know.
of the
There's a
day.
great book I listened to this year just recently. Actually, I read 2 of them by Desmond Tutu from South Africa, and he got in a conversation with the Dalai Lama from Tibet, and he wrote the Book of Forgiveness. And I recommend it on Audible because it's so these are 2 of, like, the world's most spiritual leaders, just, like, giggling with each other, but, like, engaging in, like, the art of, like, uplifting humanity, and they talk
Yeah.
about, like, some of the most horrific events in the world that like, in Rwanda and in South Africa, where, like, whole families, like, forgave the person who macheted their family to death in, like, in Rwanda, and they did these like truth and reconciliation tribunals where they were made of the villages that were like in the war, and they sat down
Mhm.
and they like actually did real forgiveness of people who'd
Mhm.
murdered their families. And it's like when you listen to that, your jaw's on the ground. You're like, okay, humans are amazing. Like, what are we doing that we've forgotten
Mhm.
how to do that? Like, we have that capacity here. Like, why are we forgetting it? Like, why we're trying to other
Unless it's
each other.
towards
We're trying.
children. Unless it's towards children, then there's no forgiveness. I'm sorry to say, but I can't.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's all like
To
take
an
all of this with a
extent, like
grain of
yeah.
salt.
There's a
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's Desmond Tutu likes to say there are no evil acts. There are no evil humans. There are only evil
Evil
acts.
acts. I agree.
And so there's plenty of evil acts, and by him saying that, a lot of people can challenge that and come up with a million excuses, and he keeps coming back to, like, everybody was a little unwounded child at one point in their life.
Mhm.
Like, nobody dreamed of growing up to be a murderer. Nobody dreamed of growing up to be a rapist? It's like we all started in innocence. We all started
Innocence.
with the
Yeah.
belief that, like, the world could
Yeah.
be safe, and some of us
Yeah.
got dealt some really raw hands,
Yeah.
but that's not an excuse to shove off our humanity and shed our skin. It's like we have to begin to remember. Like, we
Mhm.
have to begin to remember that we have a lot more shared in common than we have in different.
Yeah. I mean, it's true too. Like when we are kids, like when my daughter was like a baby, it was just pure, just innocence. You know what I mean? Like she would just look through me. Like when she would look in my eyes, she would just look through me. It was kind of eerie, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
just pure innocence. And she grows up now. We won't go there. But anyways, I wish the innocence came back.
How old is she?
She just turned 12, so and
She's
she
getting the sassy stage.
yeah, and
You're in trouble.
she's going through she's already gone through her women stages, so
Mhm.
being a single father and trying to go through it, thank God I got my girl here, she's helping me get through all that, so thank God, but yeah, that
Yeah,
was
you
yeah.
get to practice your divine feminine by being a dad
Yeah,
to a little girl. Yeah.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's super good for you. Yeah.
Well,
She's gonna teach us a lot, like, in this world.
yeah, and you know what? Like she's just super smart, and she teaches me every day, right? So it's just beautiful.
Mhm.
And like to going back to like what we were talking about is like broke that chain, Like I saw
Yes,
what
the
my dad did and
intergenerational
everything.
trauma
Yes,
chain.
yes. And I broke that. I broke that because I never really had my dad around. Like he was in and out of my life. Like he was very in and out
Mhm,
of my life. A lot of out of it, let's say that, right? But I never really
mhm.
had him around, so I wanted to not have that for her, you know?
Right. Oh
And
my god, Eric, that's
yeah,
the deepest work you can do. That is the real work, is to make the intergenerational trauma
yeah,
stop at you and say, like, "I'm gonna be the dad that I never got to have." So, just, like, huge kudos to you, big acknowledgement, like,
thank you.
that's massive work, and that is something I've been working with a lot of people on right now, is, like,
Mhm,
that is really up in the collective consciousness, is, like,
mhm,
people just recognizing, like, "Wait, this isn't even mine. This was, like, my grandmother's?"
mhm,
This
mhm.
anger, this whatever it is, this trauma. Yeah.
Generational trauma, right?
Yeah,
So
and we can lay it down, like,
I
even
think
if
all the
even if
death
it
though in
means,
my
like.
life has taught me that, like all the death that I've been through, all of this is and like all of the trauma, all of the shit I used to do as a little punk and everything that I did, is actually taught me too, to be
Mhm,
able to give me that strength. I'm not saying that you need to be able to do these things, but this was just what gave me the strength to be able to work on myself because that's what it pushed me to work on myself to be able to stop that trauma, to stop that chain, to build my own life, to build this. And I'm not perfect. I have depressed. I'm like I have be depressed all my life. Like I have it. Like so it comes and goes, but
mhm.
that's okay. I just learn how to find my triggers. I'm not perfect. Even though I got a
None of us are.
podcast. No, I fail a lot, but I still stand up and I keep on going. So is it really failure? No, no, right? You know what I mean? And I show up and
Is it
do this, and I tell people You know, like I'm not here. I'm the best. I'm perfect. I'm okay. You can't beat this. You know, follow me. No, this is what you see is what you get. I struggle too. You know, some days I get 4 hours of sleep. Some days I get 10. So I'm normal. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to do this, to show you guys that I'm a normal person. I'm just like you. Maybe even more fucked up. Who knows? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm still showing up. I'm still doing these things. And if I can do it, you guys can too.
And that's that PhD of lived experience that we talked about, you know, and the thing that the death has taught you and I both is that, like, we're all just shooting stars. We don't know how much time we have. So like how would you want to live your life if you knew that you were going to get hit by the truck tomorrow? Like, I guarantee you wouldn't stay mad at your partner. You wouldn't be a dick to your daughter, you know, like you were doing that real work because you've seen the other side. You know what your own mortality looks like, and what it does is it nothing makes you more present. Nothing makes you more conscious of like our impact in the world. And there's a great Maya Angelou quote that says, when you die, nobody remembers what you did. They remember how you made them feel.
It's true.
And that is how I've built my life. It's like, I don't care that I was a heli ski guide in Alaska. Like, what I care about is that I smile at the barista, and I overtip the waitress, and I spread as much love and shine and joy as I possibly can in a grieving world.
Exactly. And that's what it is. Open the fucking door for the person, you know, like, you know what I mean? I do it all the time. Like, that's my good karma for the day. And they laugh. That's what I say. Right. And like, they laugh. And then another guy came in like, look, I got double 2 karma right there. We're good to go. I don't have to do anything for the rest of the day. You know, I just make a joke out of it. But yeah. Right. Can I try a quick exercise with you? I think it would be kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is for everybody else. Okay. So close your eyes. Now imagine it's 10 years later and it's in the future, 10 years later, and you are in either the same spot you're in now or even worse. Everything that you wanted to come true, you know, didn't come true. You know, you just sat around, you were being lazy, you know, and you're not happy 10 years later, right? Right. So now open your eyes. Now you're back to reality. Now it's your chance to change that future. Do you want to sit like that? Or do you want to have the future that you really want? I maybe not did it properly. Yeah, so it's a little project, and it gets you thinking. I maybe not did it properly, but it's something along the lines. But it gets you thinking. You know what I mean? That, you know, like a lot of people want this future. They talk about it, but then when they get to that 10 years away, they're still stuck in that. You know, and you need to make that change in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's what, like, the work you and I are both doing. You're doing it with your new coaching app, and I'm doing it in like resiliency coaching on the 1-to-1 scale, and in teams and retreats. You know, it's like
it's actually a 90-day program. It's not even just a coaching app. I don't want to take that away from it, but it's a 90-day.
Okay, yeah, it's your 90-day program. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like that idea of like, you know, I work with people for a year, and it's like I talk about like they're on island A right now, and I ask them like all the things about like what does island B look like, and then I help them row the boat from island A to B. You know, like island B is that 10-year dream. Like, where do you actually want to get to? And then we make a strategy that builds on their own wisdom to get there. Basically, you know, it's kind of like your 90-day rebuild. Is I'm just doing that over sometimes 90 days, sometimes a year. You know, but like just kind of the same thing in analog form.
That's exactly what it does. So you take like for like say you do like the 90-day. I have a 4-week, 8-week, and then a 12-week or a 90-day, whatever. Sorry. So what it does is you do your onboarding, and it will, you know, you find out where your goal is and where you want to go. And what actually the system does is as you go through your days, it's collecting all this data, and it grows and it learns and it helps build. So it's building the system as you're going to. So it adjusts it to help you get to your goal, you know, and it makes sure that it gets to your goal. So it actually pushes you and keeps you accountable. So it's pretty cool. You know, it's interesting.
Cool.
So try it out, you guys.
I was going to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, try it out. It's still in the works. Like, I mean, like I'm working on it. I'm doing still stuff in the background, but there is like a thing in the settings for like, you know, you can tell me what's wrong. If there's a bug, I can fix it right away. So it's still in the works, but it's coming out on apps. It's be able on an app soon too. So it's awesome.
I'll be a guinea pig.
Yeah, please. I'll even get you send me an email when you're ready. I'll send you a promo code. I'll hook you up. I even have like it's only a 2-week program on there, but it's a bunch of different ones, and it's pay what you can. So it goes from $1 to like $100, and whoever wants to try to do a program or needs to do something just to help them, it's a small little thing that I can help give back. So you can pay whatever you can to be able to do the program as well too. So you don't get the
I
AI
love
features and
that.
stuff, but at least it gives your foot in to try to do that, and you get some of the workouts and some of the nutritions and all the worksheets and habits and stuff like that. Though, but it's only 2
Yeah.
weeks, so it's
Yeah.
giving back as well. So,
That's
but
great. Yeah, I also built my business that way on a sliding scale so that I could serve the guides and the ski patrollers and the
yeah,
people who, don't make much money in the world,
yeah,
and so I do a whole range that even goes
beautiful.
to barter and pro bono. So
Awesome,
yeah.
awesome. I love that. Well, and this is everybody right now. These prices are super cheap. They're obviously going to go up after, but this is so anybody in there, get in, try it, man. I mean, like a 12-week right now is literally $89, right? Like I need people to go in there and tell me some feedback. So this is good. Like these prices are going up. So hit it up now. Go. Sorry, that's my little plug for myself. But
Yeah, good, perfect.
speaking of plugs, I need you, please, to plug all your stuff one more time because we are at the end of this. So
Okay.
please.
Yeah, if you were fascinated by anything that I shared on this podcast and you want to know more, please pop over to my website at www.wildworldwanderings, WANDERINGS.com. And if you don't remember that, just remember Brooke Shiny Edwards, and you can look me up on Facebook and Instagram, on Substack if you're into seeing some of my writing. I think it's Shiny Brookie or Brookie Shiny. But I really do welcome questions. And I encourage people to reach out for a connect call, even if you have one question, or I give a lot of free coaching sessions just so people can get the experience to feel what it's like for them.
Awesome. I love that. And all of that will be in the description. So hit it up and see if it fits for you. On that note, Brooke, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming
Oh,
on. This was awesome. I had a great episode. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Joey, too, for the connect. Appreciate you. So
thank you, Joey, for introducing me to Eric, and thank you so much, Eric, for having me here today. I'm really proud of you with Raw Minds, and I really appreciate all the work you're doing to educate on men's mental health.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you. And everybody, thank you again for tuning in. And remember, this is great dopamine. So keep on watching. Take it easy. Bye.
Ciao.
Men's Mental Health. Hosted by Erick. Follow, subscribe, like, share. For the ones we never meet, you're not alone.